It's time to talk about my favorite subject ever, and that is gear, video gear, cameras, lighting, and then we're going to talk about software a little bit. Before I do any of that, I want you to look at this picture right here. I have my super yellow lights absolutely cranked right now. The image doesn't look great, but it's not that bad. It's not super yellow. And the reason it's not super yellow is because I set the custom white balance. This is a magic bullet. If you're using a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, and on some webcams you can even do this, if you can Google custom white balance, whatever camera you have, I just did this a second ago, Canon M50. I don't have that camera, but let's say I did. And look at how to set a custom white balance. It is the magic bullet for getting things to look somewhat halfway decent. In fact, I just did that. I literally grabbed this guy. Remember these? My $2 foam whiteboards. Mine just has a dead spider on it, by the way. I just realized that. It's kind of gross. Anyways, so I set my custom white balance right before recording this video. I held it up like this. I know how to do it. It takes me 3 seconds because I learned how to do it on my camera. Boom, 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 boom. White balance, baby. And again, it doesn't look great right now, but it looks way better than if I didn't set that white balance because I have these yellow lights cranked and my key light is at 1% right now. It is super yellow in this room, but you can't tell because I set a custom white balance. So this is gear number 1 right here, a $3 foam board. I'm also using it to reflect a little bit of light towards me. Moving on, let's actually talk about cameras first and then lighting. So you have 2 options. Well, actually 3. You could use your phone. If you do that, I would suggest, not doing it for an hour. Like if you're doing an interview, of course, you're not going to want to do that. But if you do like short-ish podcast episodes, yeah, just set your phone on a tripod. We'll talk about tripods in a minute. You'll need something like that. I wouldn't suggest holding it. But a phone, it could absolutely work. Now, the other 2 options, of course, are webcams and DSLRs. So let's talk about webcams first. Webcams are a little bit like cars. Like they don't actually make bad webcams anymore. They might not be super feature rich, but you could probably buy one of these like $30, $50 ones on Amazon and probably be okay. Almost all of these are going to have 1080p, which is what most people record in rather than 4K footage. But if you want to be safe, I recommend Logitech. They've just been around for years. That's what I've had. I've had this one up here for ages and ages and ages. And they've gotten actually pretty cheap. C922. This is almost the exact model. This is the newer version of what I already have. Yeah, just do that. They're easy. They work. You plug it in via USB right to your computer, you're good to go. And by the way, I will have a bunch of links to some of my recommended gear in the video below this. Or in the description below this video, sorry. All right, moving on. So I actually suggest 2. DSLR/mirrorless. If you don't know the difference between a DSLR and a mirrorless camera, don't really worry about it. Honestly, it's not that important. I'm using a mirrorless, and that tends to be most people's recommendations. If you already have a DSLR, you might be able to make it work as is with whatever stuff you have right now using the Camlink 4K. Oh, I pulled it up. Where is it? Nope. Oh, there it is. Camlink 4K. Okay. So the Elgato, that's the name of the brand that makes this. Camlink is the name of the product. It's $100 and it allows you to plug in via an HDMI cable. That's what I'm using right now for my camera, by the way. An HDMI cable. It's running all the way over here through the Camlink 4K into my Mac Mini. That is how I'm getting this recording to my computer. I could put in an SD card. In fact, that's what I do for most of my YouTube videos because I'm recording across the room. But you can actually use this like a webcam, a DSLR, or a mirrorless camera, which is what I have, through the Camlink 4K. Now, before you go buy the Camlink 4K, because, I have a DSLR, you might want to check to make sure you can't just use it via USB. A lot of these cameras, you can actually just use a USB straight into your computer. You don't need an HDMI cable. You don't need a Camlink 4K. You're going to have to do some Googling based on the camera you already have. If it's an older model DSLR or something like that from like 5-10 years ago, it might not work. You need to do some Googling based on your streaming software or recording software, which I'll share with you in just a minute. One example would be I use Ecamm Live for everything. That's where I record on my computer. If I'm doing anything on the computer, screen shares or whatever, I'm using Ecamm. Ecamm Live. You can also live stream with it, but I use it to record as well. That does not need the Camlink 4K for Canon cameras, I believe. I could be wrong on this because they keep changing it. But I have a Sony camera, and so I needed the Camlink 4K, which again, you might need to go Google based on your setup, but that's just mine. So I have two that I recommend. There's a ton that you can use. If you're buying one from scratch, I generally have two that I recommend. One would be the Canon M50. I recommend these because they're sort of budget. These are not full frame cameras. You don't even need to know what that means, but just know they're not the $3,000 cameras, the $1,000 and below cameras. The Canon M50, $650. Boom, right there, or $640, like around this range. It would probably be really great. These are small-ish, they're fairly lightweight, and they work really well for YouTube purposes, vlogging and or setting on a tripod like this and getting talking headshots. The Canon M50 is a really great one. I love it. I used Canon cameras up until this one that I currently have, which is, I'm actually just gonna pull it up on Amazon as well over here. This is the Sony a6400. There's a Sony a6000, there's a Sony a6600, there's a couple of them in this price range. I like the 6400 because it's kind of a combination of a bunch of features, which I'm not even really gonna tell you about right now, but just know I can shoot in 4K here. Obviously, I'm doing 1080p right now. It has great autofocus and tracking, which is really what you want out of a video thing. That's why I don't recommend using old DSLRs. It's because they don't have autofocus. You have to focus manually with the lens, or you have to hold down the button to focus. You don't want that. You want continuous autofocus cameras. And almost everything you buy nowadays has that anyways, but if you have an older model, they might not have that. Canon M50, great one. Sony a6400. These are the two I recommend for most people under $1,000. I use the a6400 and I love it. I'm super in love with it. In fact, I use it with a Sigma 16 millimeter lens. It's like $200-300, $400. Jeez, I thought it was like 300. I bought this on Amazon, by the way, for Sony E. You can actually use this with a Canon as well, by the way. You can Google Sigma 16 millimeter Canon. I don't know why nothing's typing right now. Something weird happened. Doesn't matter. 60. Yeah, there you go. Sigma 16 millimeter Canon. There you go. There's the Canon version of the lens I'm using on my Sony. They have two different mount types, but there you go. Sony a6400 plus the Sigma lens is what I've been using for 1.5 years for all my YouTube videos and everything. That's what I'm using right now. That's what you're looking at right now. What else we got? Those are really the only two I recommend. If you have an older DSLR or if you have a mirrorless or DSLR camera already, go Google, see if it's gonna work and see what you need to do in order to use it like a webcam, like I'm doing right now. I'm recording not to my SD card, I'm recording to my computer via Ecamm Live software and through the Camlink. You may not need those things depending on what you use. So go Google your camera first. But if you're buying one from scratch and want to keep it under $1,000, which I really don't think you need much more than that. I really don't. Don't spend more than $1,000 if you're new at this. You really don't need it. Sony a6400 or the Canon M50. That's what I recommend, period. Boom. Okay, moving right along. I don't really want to talk about mics other than just show you the one I already have, which is a shotgun mic. So you're in podcasting. I assume you know mics and audio already. But shotgun mics record in one direction. They're not omnidirectional. They're whatever the opposite of that is. Don't remember. Monodirectional? No, that's not the right word. I don't know. You know more than I do, probably. But I use these to, cut out a little bit of the background noise all across my room. Again, you're already in audio. You already know this. But I use the Rode NTG 4 Plus. I don't remember one of those. Oh, the 4 Plus has additional features. No, I use the Rode NTG 4. There's the NTG 2 right there. Mine was a couple of steps up from that, the NTG 4. That's what I'm recording into right now, and I love it. It's great. Okay, moving on. You don't really need to know about mics, right? So let's talk about lighting. Super important. Let's actually switch for a second. I really want to talk about softness of light. So give me 1 second. I'm actually going to cut down this lighting right here just a little bit, so it would make it darker in here. My color is going to get all wonky because I fixed that white balance earlier, so everything's going to look blue. But that's okay for my purposes right now. What I really want to do is crank this key light up right here. I'm using a remote control that I have. There you go. Boom. Now you can see it's much brighter right here. If I turn it off, there's nothing. All right, so here's some lighting. Soft light is what you want. When you go and buy a ring light or your gear, which I'll show you in a second, you need to make light softer. Now, here is a way light, which I'll also show you in just a second. I showed you this in that previous video if you watched that. I'm gonna turn it on right here. Okay, woo, that's super bright. This is 5200 Kelvin, which is right around like daylight, not like my yellow lights up there. Okay, so look at my face. It's super dark right now. There's a little bit of blue because I have blue lights going on. I'm gonna put this light right on me. There you go. That looks terrible. This is what you don't want. Now, there's a really easy fix, and that is to soften this light. And there's a few different ways you can do it. I'm not going to show you right now, but my big key light has a soft box, is what it's called, or a light dome or something. I don't know. It softens the light. It makes this not so harsh and bright. There's another way to do it, which is to bounce the light off something else. So remember my foam boards that I have set up right here? I'm going to angle this at my face, and I'm going to point this light towards it. So compare this to this. That light is so much better and softer. There's an even better. So this is almost like a workable video light. And all I did was turn the light around. I did this instead of this. This is harsh light, really hard light. This is soft light. I'm just bouncing it off a wall, essentially. If you have a white wall or a lighter colored wall, you can just point these lights at the wall. I have concrete matte black walls, so I can't do that. It literally just absorbs all the light. So I have these like little $3 foam boards that I just hit the light on right there, and that is my nice soft light. Okay, now that you understand that, I want to go back and I will actually turn my big light on. I don't know what I did with my thing. There we go. There you go. Sorry for that. I'm actually going to go back and show you some of this stuff. This is actually super blue now, and I'm not going to change it. We're just going to keep going. Sorry. All right. So a bunch of these you'll actually see have these soft boxes. That thing right there is called a softbox. New softbox lighting banner. This is what it would look like with no softbox. This has a softbox. By the way, something I did for ages and ages was I literally had like a super bright hard light, like I just showed you, through a shower curtain. I went to Home Depot and I got a, not clear, but one of the frosted shower curtains, you know what I mean? And hung that up in front of my light. That diffuses the light. That's essentially what this big softbox does. It diffuses light. The same thing with bouncing it off a foam board or something like that. Okay, so now that you know that you can't just do a ring light. You need some sort of diffusion. You can bounce it off a wall, or you could buy something like a softbox. So I'm not going to recommend you a light. I am going to show you what I use. But just know, like some of these, like I'm going to zoom in right here. These are okay. In fact, I have those exact ones. You can see down here, they come with like some little diffusion things. Not the color ones, you don't want that. But they come with like a little diffuser thing that will diffuse the light and make it much softer. Those work pretty well. Not as great as a soft dome, but pretty well. In fact, the reason the soft domes work better is because they are bigger. Like this thing I have right here, my key light, it's massive. You want a big light source. If you have huge windows that diffuse light, it's absolutely perfect. That's gorgeous light. That's what photographers and videographers love. So now that you have that in mind, you can go make your choices. You can buy these right here. You can bounce them off a phone board or a wall and have perfect soft light. Or you could just use this and have pretty good soft light. If you use it without the little diffuser thing, it's going to be too hard, and you're going to see that. Or you can go on and buy some softboxes. These are super cheap ones. I recommend getting the cheapest ones you have. If you don't actually care that much, just get super cheap ones. Newer, or I don't know how you say it, but Neewer is a good brand of really cheap stuff. I like Neewer stuff. I have a lot of Neewer lights in some way or another. Godox is another really budget-friendly brand for lighting sort of stuff. Godox. In fact, Godox actually makes my key light. I searched Godox light here in Amazon, and this is what I came up with. So I have the step above this. I have the SL150, which is more powerful than this one right here. It was like $300 or $400. But this is the exact light I have. I bought this. And then I bought I should have showed this. I think it was an Aperture. Aperture is the more expensive band. Aperture Light. These right here are more expensive. $500, $1,000. Like this, now you're getting into like, this is what the pros use sort of thing. But this softbox right here, the light dome, is what I have. I have my Godox SL150. Here's a newer brand that's like the same thing. One of these continuous lighting things. And I have a softbox, just like this. I think I have the smaller one just because I didn't want the thing taking over my room. The Mini, this is what I have right here. This is the exact one I have. This is the Light Dome Mini 2. And it fits the aperture, but it's actually just called a Bowens mount. In fact, you might even see this in here. Yeah, Bowens. That's the name of the mount. How you connect that light to that softbox. It's called a Bowens mount. Bowens. So that's what I have right there. I recommend just doing something cheap-ish, especially if you're on a budget, but just knowing how to position them and bounce light and diffuse light. Oh man, you can make a $50 light look like one of these $1,000 lights if you do it correctly. To the normal person, they wouldn't be able to tell a difference. Now, obviously, pro YouTubers, they spend the money because their quality is like top notch. But in general, I did really well for like $500. I got my Godox SL150 and I got my Aperture Light Dome Mini, and it's great. It's perfect. This thing's super bright when I want it to be. Right now, by the way, I know it's blue, but this is on 7%. When I crank this thing up to like 50%, it starts to get super bright in here. Way too bright, honestly. Here's 21%. You can see that brightened me a little bit maybe. Or maybe you can't see, I don't know. So that is most of my lighting right there. And that's the lighting that I recommend. I recommend just going fairly cheap. The only other thing I really want to show you is this Waylight. It's the little handheld thing I held up a minute ago. There's the exact one I have. And it's actually dropped in price. It was like $80 a year and a half ago when I bought mine. Here's like a more expensive version that you can use with your phone. These are amazing. You can use these in so many different ways. That's the only reason I bring it up. These could be awesome background lights. Like, hang on, let me just come over here. I'm gonna turn mine on. You can see it does do white light. And of course you can adjust the temperature. I can make this like super yellow. Actually, if I do that, super yellow, and I like bounce this, now my lighting is like a little bit better for this YouTube video. Maybe not. But of course you can also do colors. So let's go, yeah, there you go. So I can use this for like a little bit more light on my face, like a little softer, or if you don't have background colored lights like this one and you want some, I could literally just like angle this up here or something, and you could see like background colors or full RGB, white, both warm and cool, adjustable strengths. Like this is at 67%. It looks like I could like pop this down so it's barely noticeable. They're just very versatile. Okay, you can't actually tell the difference from this video, but I'm lowering the power of the light right here, so it's not as noticeable. These are fantastic. $50 well spent. By the way, they also have a tripod mount, or a little mount right there. So if you have like a little tripod, which I'm about to talk about now, I can just pop this on it, and that can be your light. You buy a tripod, you buy a $50 like Waylight or something very similar. Aperture makes a more expensive version, of course. These are perfect. This might be all you need. With this little foam board, I could literally get away with that as all my YouTube video lighting. It's that good. These are super powerful. Okay, some more accessories. Let's talk briefly about stands. Friction arms. So these things right here, I'm actually just gonna show you one. I got two. Friction arms, magic arms, they mean the same thing. Friction, magic arm, as you can see right here. These are stands that attach to things, honestly, and you can't, this is loose. I was like, wait, I can bend it. It's because it's loose. You can control this entire thing the way everything is pointed with just this one knob. So if you loosen this knob, and this is mounted to your desk right here, now we can go all around. You can go everywhere, and that's where I mount my camera for a lot of videos. And you could just move it freely, even when this is attached, in any direction you choose. It's a magic arm. And then when you want to tighten it, you just crank this bad boy up, and it's like, it's done. You can't, like, it's amazing the way these work. And now every joint is like this. I could barely move even this top one right here, and I didn't even tighten it down all the way. Like magic arms, friction arms. This is a Manfrotto, and it was pretty pricey for what it is. You can't see it because it's focusing on my face, but this was like 150 bucks, 120 bucks. Here is a super cheap version. This is a newer, again. It works pretty well. It's not as big as the Manfrotto that I just showed you. And it's quite frankly not as strong. Like if I put too much weight on here, it doesn't work quite as well. And there's not quite as many like movable knobs or whatever. But this is also way cheaper. This was like $20 or something like that. This thing plus this thing could be your lighting setup, period. And you can move it around. You can focus it on different directions. It will like attach onto that. You just screw it on. Friction arms, magic arms. Again, you don't need the super expensive ones, but they are way better. You do get what you pay for. But this one right here is just a great little accessory to have around. It was 20 bucks. You can also, I use this a lot of times to bounce my light. Like I usually stand it up. Like I'll attach this to the desk and just lay it against that. It just, you can use it for a million different things. Also, you can put mics on there if you really wanted to. I don't, but you could. What else we got? I think that's all my accessories. Oh, stands. So you could just do a tripod. My camera is sitting on a normal tripod right now. They're super cheap on Amazon. I really think, even if you have a webcam, see how this is like way too high. This is like, my eye level is like here. This is like 6 or 8 inches up and it looks weird. I recommend getting a tripod of some sort. This is a Joby Gorilla Pod where you can like move it around and flexible. And I could actually like attach this to my desk if I wanted, or I could just grab it like this and use it in like vlog mode, selfie mode. They're pretty adjustable, but you don't even need this one. This one was like 50 to 70 bucks. And that's the desktop. It can be nice. You just put it on your desk, quite literally, or you can move it around or whatever. Other than a big tripod, which is a lot more difficult to move or whatever. But get a tripod or a stand or a magic friction arm or whatever you can to get things off of your computer. You can position things the way you need it to be. That's actually pretty important and pretty cheap, I feel like.